lost over 30,000 making these Amazon beginner mistakes. Guys, do not do this. What I'm about to share in this video, do not make these mistakes, okay? For those of you guys that don't know me, my name's Eric Cooper, and I've sold well over $2 million on Amazon and consistently sell $100,000 every single month. Just a quick reminder, I'm not giving any income guarantees, no fake results, nothing like that, like some of these gurus talk about. Simply raw game and just sharing what actually works in my business and what didn't work in my business, as I was learning kind of the game. So this is a full 7-part series, okay? This is the kind of series right here. This is the last video, kind of just talking about the mistakes you really want to avoid to ensure you guys don't end up buying products that are bad, that aren't, making you money. You really want to avoid that, okay? If you have not already watched these other videos, make sure you watch them all in series, including the first video, which is about the mindset you need to have. Believe it or not, mindset is one of the most important things going into Amazon and starting a business. I used to think it was the stupidest thing and that it's dumb, but as I've scaled this business, I've realized mindset is so important. So make sure you guys watch that video. But without further ado, these are the things we're gonna be covering in today's video. These are some of the mistakes that I see a lot of people talking, or a lot of people making, and some of the mistakes that I've made personally, and how you can avoid them. So the first mistake is starting with RA, otherwise known as retail arbitrage. We could also just say wholesale, but starting with retail arbitrage, if you guys didn't already know, this means actually purchasing products from retail stores in person. So for example, Target, Walmart, Home Depot, going in person into these stores and buying products. Now, the business model itself is actually really good. I mean, you can make good money doing retail arbitrage. It's pretty easy to get a quick win, right? Because you can immediately kind of, go in stores. It's real. You can find some products that make you money. The reason why it's actually bad is because you can screw yourself over in the long run, because when you try to switch to a more online business, you're not going to know how to do it. And so starting off with retail arbitrage is just bad because it's almost like starting to drive an automatic car when you know you want to drive manual anyways. It's like, yeah, you know how to drive, but when you switch to that manual car, you're going to have to kind of like relearn driving all over again. When if you just started with manual, you'll be able to build up from there. And so that's kind of how I can best explain it. Kind of an interesting explanation, but that is why I just think retail arbitrage just sucks to start. And then as you guys know, my opinion on wholesale is it's just way too dangerous for most people to start. You need thousands of dollars to get started in inventory. And not only that, but like if you buy a product that isn't good, you are just screwed over. Their MOQs are so high, you might be stuck. You're going to have to do a bunch of cold emailing, outbound emailing, all this stuff. So that's why I don't like wholesale. And like I said, it's just way too dangerous for most newer sellers. So that's kind of my opinion. I want to share something as well that I think is really important. This kind of also ties in a little bit to retail arbitrage, wholesale stuff. But the second thing is following one path, okay? I'm sure you guys have probably heard the saying before, like, you're a jack of all trades, but you're a master of none. And this right here is one of the most important things you have to realize when getting into any business. And it's that you guys have probably seen there's tons of people that talk about Amazon, getting into Amazon, understanding Amazon, and how to start the best business models, all this stuff, right? And the reality of it is, if you listen to all of these different people and you try to take all their best information, you will naturally become overwhelmed and confused. You won't really know which path to take, who to listen to, who to trust. And so my advice to you guys watching this is genuinely pick one person, and even if it's not me, I wouldn't be upset. It's just pick one person to follow and listen to, because if you try to listen to everybody, you'll end up just getting messed up and you won't really know what to actually do. Following one person and just copying every move that they make is going to lead you way more results than trying to listen to everyone, because everyone's going to have a different opinion. Everyone's going to have something that worked for them that doesn't work for others. It's just, you're always going to have this stuff. So in my opinion, just follow that one person, follow that one path, take it. For me, I invested into a program when I first started this business, used up my credit card to kind of get into that, just to see step by step how this guy built his business, and took what he did and just ran with it, made it better, started using AI in my business, and that's how I built it. But if you are trying to like grab and all do all this stuff, you're almost just going to make less progress by trying to listen to everybody instead of just focusing on one person and taking action. So just some general advice for you guys. And this can be applied to, a lot of things in life, but also just, what you guys want to do. If you guys want to have a business that's automated, run by VAs, you use AI, I may be the guy you want to listen to. If you want to learn how to build, a different type of Amazon business, there may be someone else that you want to listen to. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's the best piece of advice. The third thing, this is where I made some big mistakes, and that is IP complaints. Okay, I'm going to show you guys what I mean in a second here. So this is an example of an IP complaint. I'm going to quickly explain what it is as well, but just to give you an example, this right here is what we call an IP complaint. So remember, this is the price graphs on here, right? We're not getting confused with the, this is the offer count graph, not the price graph. I see a lot of students that I work with, sometimes they'll get confused and they'll see a drop in the price, for example, like this, right? $59 to $23, and they'll think that's an IP complaint. An IP complaint is when the offer count shoots from 35 down to 1, 2, whatever. That's what an IP complaint is, okay? Very two different things, so make sure you guys understand that those are the differences. It's the offer count, not the price, okay? It's the competitor count, not the price. Now, essentially what an IP complaint is, it's when the brand basically kicks you off the listing, okay? So there are some listings where you actually don't want to sell them because the brand may kick you off. This one, if you see this in the graph, this is now when I would make the decision like, hey, look, I'm not going to sell this product because of that, okay? Because you don't want to risk, purchasing a product where you can get kicked off, right? Because then you don't know what to do with your product. You will have inventory tied up. You're not going to be able to make money, right? Like, you really want to avoid these IP complaints, and it could also actually affect your Amazon account health. So it's very, very important that you guys avoid this because it can be detrimental for you guys. So avoid that. I'll teach you guys in a second some best ways to avoid the IP complaints. The biggest advice I can give is try to stay around listings where there's been at least 4 sellers, in the past. Like if you look at a listing where, here, let me pull up an example. So for an example, if you guys look at a listing like this, in the past, let's just look at the past year. It's only been around for 140 days. But in the past 140 days, there's only really been 1 to 2 sellers on this listing. Even if I found this product extremely profitable, I would not sell this item solely on the fact that there's just been no sellers on here, right? So you want to look for listings where there's been at least like 4 sellers at all times kind of on the listing. Sometimes even more. If you only see like 1 to 2, 3 sellers, like that's a huge red flag. And so, yeah, you want to avoid that. Also, one other thing just that I totally didn't even consider to mention to you guys, watch out for listings that have only been around for, 90 days, 120 days, even 150 days or less, because those listings could be deleted. Just something to look out for. Again, I want to share as much as I can with you guys. I'm not sharing all this information to try to like scare you or, make you feel a certain type of way. I just want to share things that most of these guys that talk about Amazon would never even share to help save you guys because some of these mistakes, like I said, cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. And so I don't want you guys to make the same mistake, okay? But this right here, listings that haven't been around for a long time, is also very, very bad, and you don't want to deal with any of that. Hey, what's up guys? I hope you are enjoying this video. For those of you guys that want to avoid a lot of these mistakes and not spend money on inventory that might lose you thousands of dollars, I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to apply below to work with me one-on-one. I can help you basically take this whole business and scale it and avoid a lot of these costly mistakes, because the last thing you want to do is jump into Amazon and then buy a bunch of product that doesn't actually end up being good. So if you guys want to avoid that and just have someone walk you through the whole process, show you exactly how to source those products, what products are actually good, and review them before you purchase them, click the link below and apply to work one-on-one with me. But yeah, back to the IP complaints. It's basically just the drop right here. This is another example of an IP complaint right here, where we go from 17 down to 2 right here. So obviously another IP complaint, right? Just that straight line down. It's not good, right? When we see that, we just avoid it. And that's kind of the best things to look out for. It's just anytime you see that, just don't bother selling that product anymore. Okay, that is IP complaints. Now I want to talk about brands on the listing. So this right here is an example of a brand that's on the listing, right? So you can see the name, Caladera, that's the brand name right here. Anytime a brand is on the listing, even in the past, right, there was historically other sellers on here, more than 4, I would be a little skeptical that this could possibly become an IP complaint listing, okay? Just something to consider. I always avoid listings where the brand has been selling on it, okay? Because you guys got to think, if you were a brand, would you really want to share the sales with somebody else if you're already selling the product on Amazon? Probably not. Now, you may be thinking, well, what about these other brands? Why wouldn't they list, like why do they not care? And the main reason is some of these brands are so big, they just don't care about selling on Amazon. And so that's why there's tons of opportunity for us to still make money reselling those brands. But brands like this, where they're the only seller, I would just, or they are on the listing, I would simply just avoid it to, avoid that headache. This is obviously, I was going to show another product, but those are kind of the main things with brands on the listing. Just avoid them because typically they turn into IP complaints. And that's something that I see a ton. So you really don't want to fall for any IP complaints, especially with the brands on the listing, because those two go kind of hand in hand. And so if you want to avoid IP complaints, avoid listings with less than 4 sellers and avoid listings where the brand is on the listing. If you do those 2 things, you should be okay to avoid them, and you won't really run into it too much. All right, I want to talk to you guys about the brand mismatches, okay? Brand mismatches, I mean, dude, these are things that even like really experienced Amazon sellers don't even know about. It's crazy, it blows my mind. But brand mismatches are super dangerous. I'll explain why in a second. Dangerous for a lot of people. So first things first, I've made a lot of money selling this brand, Spring Valley, and this is where I made one mistake. Is I didn't know what brand mismatches were until I sold on one and I lost money because the listing got deleted. So let's talk about it. What is a brand mismatch? So a brand mismatch, we're gonna open this product right here. A brand mismatch is typically when, like, as we know, this product in itself, the brand is Spring Valley, right? That is what people are purchasing when they look at this product. They're purchasing the Spring Valley. What these guys are doing is they add a little sticker, they add a little, vitamin thing, they add something that makes it their own brand. So now, instead of you just purchasing Spring Valley, you can see we're actually purchasing brand STS Home. That right there is where you run into the issues of brand mismatch because we're not actually selling Spring Valley anymore. We're selling STS Home. And so this can get you into trouble with Amazon because, again, we're not really selling Spring Valley. We're selling some brand mismatch thing. And so the reason why I said this is dangerous for us, but it's also dangerous for this guy because this is actually against Amazon's TOS to do this. It's called bundled variations. And so it's actually against Amazon's TOS to sell this stuff. But these guys still risk it. They still do it. But I would definitely not encourage you to do it. You can get in a ton of trouble. And so, yeah, any of these ones with stickers are brand mismatches. This one with vitamins is a brand mismatch, right? If we open this, instead of it saying Spring Valley, it says Asher Pro. So we don't want to sell this product, right? It is no good to sell. So that's what you want to avoid. There's a couple other things I want to talk about here that I didn't even include. We'll quickly touch on the pattern recognition because that is super important. So the pattern recognition, I touched on this in one of the other videos a little bit with just understanding kind of the Keepa and the graphs and everything here. The biggest thing you have to understand with doing this business is that all of your products go through a simple pattern, right? Your offer count spikes up, then it spikes down, and what's going to happen is typically your price spikes up, then it spikes down, then it spikes up, then it spikes down, then it spikes up, then it spikes down. And it's just a pattern. And so I've lost a ton of money because I've bought products when their pattern trends up like this. And then I end up losing a lot of money because the price goes down. And then I'm selling at this really low number instead of making a lot of money. So you need to recognize this pattern before you buy at the top, right? It's like investing into like stocks, like or crypto, which you shouldn't really do. I've lost money doing that too. But you really don't want to invest into that stuff because of, you know what I mean? You don't want to invest in the top. Now, I'm not saying investing in crypto or investing in stocks is a bad thing. You just have to be smart at it. You know, I clearly wasn't smart when I did it, so I didn't know what I was doing. If I just held on to it forever, you'll make money, I'm sure of it. But for me, I didn't know what I was doing. Okay, now I understand, and I've realized it's the same thing with Amazon. Like sometimes too, you can buy at the top, but if you just hold on for long enough, eventually people will dip out and that price will recover again and you'll be back to selling at a higher price point, right? So just understand that as well. But if you guys can just recognize this pattern, you'll also be able to take advantage of purchasing products when the offer count is trending down, so the price goes super high. You know what I mean? Sometimes that's where I make the most amount of profit, is right after that offer count shoots down, the price goes super, super high and inflated, and you make a lot of money selling in those that time in that window. So keep that in mind. That's going to be one of the best things you guys can do. And yeah, just recognize that pattern. A couple other things I wanted to mention with you guys, just so you guys can go ahead and save yourself some time. These products right here both have Amazon on them. A lot of people always ask me, Eric, should I be competing with Amazon? Should I try buying with Amazon? My answer for most new sellers is going to be no, okay? Because it is very risky to try to compete with Amazon, especially if you don't really understand the graphs yet. This product right here, the offer count is only 1, huge red flag. Also, there's no movement in the offer count, right? Because they're the only seller. So with that said, if you do want to compete with Amazon and you do want to try it out and consider it, you want to see something like this with your offer count, okay? You want to see some of that up and down play like we do right here, kind of like all these little dips, right? All these little drop downs. Anytime we see those little drops, that is a good sign that our offer count was trending down. And that's a good thing, right? We want to see stuff like that because it tells us like, hey, yes, this is good. Amazon is, these people are selling out of stock. If the offer count goes down, it means other people are selling units and selling out a product. Those are good signs. We want to see that. And so it just makes the most sense, okay, to do that. So I highly encourage that you guys, if you are planning on investing into a product where Amazon's on it, you must see some movement and up and downs in the offer count because that qualifies that the product is selling for you. Now, if you're still a little bit unsure, then you just test the product. Maybe you buy 3 units, 5 units, 10 units, depending on your budget. You start off really, really small and just see how it goes and see what happens, okay? But those are kind of the main things. And yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out. You really do want to avoid these mistakes because it can cost you guys a lot of money if you don't avoid them. For those of you guys that want a little bit of help, avoiding these mistakes and, making sure you don't lose thousands buying bad inventory or getting an IP complaint on your account and, getting it deactivated. If you guys want to ensure you're not going to run into that and you want to just work with me directly where I can look over the products before you purchase them, but also just help you source more and better products to sell, you guys can click the link below where you guys can apply to work one-on-one with me, and I can help you pretty much grow the whole business and show you step-by-step what we're doing and how you can implement it. But yeah, with that said, I'll see you guys later. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this full course. I put a lot of time and effort into this, so hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys. Peace out.